Growing up in Blue Rapids, Kansas in the late 1960s and early 1970s was truly an idyllic time for me. I have many happy memories from my childhood in City Park, one of which was a Girl Scout camp that lasted several days. During that time, in camp, for some reason, I was drawn to sleep in the giant cottonwood tree my husband and I lovingly refer to as Grandmother Cottonwood. I had the best 3 nights of sleep I can remember, sleeping in a particular set of branches in that tree. My dreams were very vivid during that time. I really didn't understand why I was drawn. I would come down and do the things that I needed to do with the rest of the girls in camp and do my chores, but then it was right back up the tree and right back to napping and sleeping. It wasn't until later on in life, when I learned my family heritage was Native American, that I understood why my dreams were so particularly vivid. Learning later in life that at the age of 7 or 8, in the arms of Grandmother Cottonwood, I, as a young girl, had my first vision quest. The dreams have never faded. Their importance is still very real to me. And the love that I felt for that tree throughout my life never dimmed, nor did her glory, with the shade that she provided, the comfort in the heat of all the summer fairs, and the absolute pride of knowing at one point she was the largest cottonwood in Kansas. If you haven't recognized my voice, my name is Reverend Rhonda West. Many of you knew me as Rhonda Farnham. Now you know my story of Grandmother Cottonwood.
Cottonwood trees can be prolific cedars. Carried by a Kansas wind, the seed-bearing cotton can travel for miles. Such a seed found its way to a fertile spot close to a bend in the Big Blue River in Marshall County, Kansas in the 1800s. By the time settlers arrived in Blue Rapids to harness the water power in the 1870s, that tree had harnessed its share of water to achieve growth. Standing as it did between the industrial section of town and the businesses around the square, it served as a landmark. Join us as we pay tribute to this natural piece of Blue Rapids history. When land was marked for the Marshall County Fairgrounds, it included the huge cottonwood, which brooded over the park like a mother hen. On October 24th, 1913, the Chicago White Sox and the New York Giants, winners of the National League pennant, played an exhibition baseball game in Blue Rapids, the only city in Kansas to host these famous players. A photograph taken that day shows a group of players huddling in conversation while behind them a batter prepares to swing. On the left, the tree anchors the sky. It towers above a line of cars ringing the stadium at Riverside Park. Even then it was old.
I'm Betty Bray, and I remember Mom, my husband's mother, Laura Bray, talking about the cottonwood tree right here. When she was a little girl, she played in that, and she was born in 1912. So that had to be a long time ago. There was a hole in it big enough that she could get in it. And her older sister, 7 years earlier than that, Bernice, had played in that tree also. So that tree has quite a reputation. And then our daughter Carrie said that she remembers playing in it. She went in it, and I bet she had sometimes when she even hid in it and we were looking for her. So it has quite a reputation for Blue Rapids.
I'm Maxine Lamb Holler, and I remember the old tree back when I was just a little girl and my dad played baseball on the town team. On Sunday afternoons, it was a must that we get there early to put our blankets down so we could have shade under the old cottonwood tree, because it was summertime and it was hot. And then later on, when we had 4th of July things, we watched the game, hurried home, got the chores done so we could come back and watch the fireworks. Of course, they weren't like they are today, but they were fun. And then it was always there. And as I went to high school, our football team played on the field that went north and south there, a ways from the tree, and we used the tree again in the summertime, or in the September and October, because it was hot for shade. We had bleachers under there, and some people stood up there. I don't remember too much about it from years on, except that it was just always there, and I guess I thought it always would be there, but time has a way of changing things. My last memory, of course, is of the weenie roast and the burning of the old cottonwood tree.
My name is Jim Flower Jr. And I guess talking about the old tree, the old cottonwood, was down there in the park for years and years and years. I can remember my dad telling me numerous times when he was a kid, and he lived just southwest of the tree there a little ways, and he used to sneak off and hide in the tree and smoke cigarettes or whatever, you know. It was a kind of a hideout. His mom couldn't see him from her house over there, so he could hide, and they had their fort in there, and the opening, as time has went on, has gotten a whole lot smaller. I don't know what caused the opening to begin with, but it was rotten there, and basically the tree had a big open hole in the center of it. And then in 2006, I guess, the tree decided to just start rotting bad and limbs breaking off of it, and we ended up spending 3 or 4 days piling it all up to burn it, because it'd take entirely too long to just haul it off, and we burned it right there on the spot.
By the 1960s, 2 Rotarians looking around for something outstanding for Blue Rapids to brag about struck on the idea of calling this tree the largest cottonwood in Kansas. Measuring the circumference of the huge trunk, they made that declaration and had a nice sign made to announce the same to the world. In later years, when Bob Klotz and Ora Purcell were questioned about their decision, they said that if anyone came along with proof of a larger tree, then they would admit they might be wrong. The state of Kansas stepped into the fray with an official Kansas tree program. Men dutifully measured the trunks of competing trees. In October 1972, the Blue Rapids behemoth was declared the champion eastern cottonwood in Kansas with a trunk measuring 23 feet 4 inches. At some point in the 1990s, a cottonwood tree near Lake Perry took the championship, but when that tree was damaged, ours was remeasured in 2002. By then, the contest had heated up. Not only was the trunk measured, but so was the total height and crown spread. Our tree then had a circumference of 328 inches, or 27 feet 4 inches, with a crown spread of 101 feet and a height of 87 feet. That year, our cottonwood was outdone by another cottonwood in Jefferson County.
Yeah, Greg Cobbs from Greenleaf via Waterville, Kansas, and my good friends from Blue Rapids, Phil and Pat Osborne asked me to come over and spin a few tales about the old cottonwood tree and some of the people that I met at that location were, and it was quite a variation of personalities, but the one that they've asked me to talk a little bit about was a tree. We always called it the tree because when I was in high school, with the visitors, we were bused over to the fairgrounds, and that's where the football game was played. And when the games always parked the school bus there by the tree. We always called it the tree. And immediately when the half was over with, why, Coach Snibble hollered, get to the tree, so that we wouldn't get in, what I want to say, quite a rivalry there, so there could be a little bit of emotions get out of control. So he'd get us to the tree in a hurry and get us in the bus or whatever. But fond memories of that area of the fairgrounds and of that big old Cottonwood. Really enjoyed it.
Hi, I'm Karen Nordquist. I was born April 4th, 1942, the oldest child of Earl and Laura Johnston. I was born and raised in Blue Rapids, and I'm here today to tell you of my childhood memory of the grand old cottonwood tree. And joining me, I have some of my grandchildren. We have Katie Nordquist, Charlie Nordquist, John Nordquist, Andrea Nordquist, Lily Constable, and Tierra Constable. Just for the record, I have 18 grandchildren and 3 great-granddaughters. Anyway, when I was about 3 years old, which is Elia's age, my folks bought a house, and it was just back on the other side of this old oak tree. This is the oak tree, cottonwood tree that we're talking about, that had the playhouse inside of it. And when I was about 5 years old, which is Aiden's age, my dad bought a cow, an old Jersey mount cow. And the city of Blue Rapids allowed him to put the cow out in the grass over here to feed. And also there were horse barns. And they're, I guess, they're stables, but everybody in town just called them horse barns. And they allowed him to keep the cow in the horse barn. Well, I used to walk with my dad over to the tree when he staked out the cow so she could graze. And I investigated and found that this cottonwood tree, that you could walk inside of it, I could stretch my arms out and not touch either side of the tree. It was just pretty amazing. And I used to go over there with Dad and play until he said it was time to go home. And then when I started school, I was about 6 years old. I found out that there was a girl in my class that just lived up the block from me. Her name was Roseanne Woodyard, and we used to play together a lot. And she would come down and we would go over to the old cottonwood tree and play house. We'd take our baby dolls over there and we'd just have lots of fun playing house. And I remember there was another family at the end of the block, a Flower family. And they had lots of kids, and the Woodyards had lots of kids. And there was me and my cousin Lonnie Bratcher. We'd all get together and we'd play hide and seek or ditch 'em. And this was one of the areas that we'd play in. And Lonnie was just a year older than I, and we were together all the time. And around the old cottonwood tree was lots of poison ivy. And as kids would do it, we dared each other to play in the poison ivy. And I'm very thankful that neither one of us got poison ivy. But it's a wonder that we didn't, because the old cottonwood tree was covered with poison ivy. But at that time, being a child, where the opening was, you didn't have to bend over or anything. You could just walk inside of this great big old tree. And it was just pretty amazing if you think about a tree being that big and being able to walk inside of it. I think, Pat, that's probably all I have. Do you kids have any questions? Katie?
What was that last game?
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that was a game that was sort of like hide and seek, only you played it at night when you couldn't see, and you would hide, and when somebody would try and find you, well, you would, it was basically like hide and seek, but you would run and just try and stay out of their sight all the time.
Yeah. And sort of like Black Wolf.
I don't know what Black Wolf is.
That's well, you hide and it's like hide and seek, but you hide it and it's at dark. But when you, when the person sees you, you yell Black Wolf or when you see them.
Okay, I bet it is then. Any questions? Other questions?
Then you run towards the base, and that's all.
Okay. Well, the old tree isn't there anymore, but it held a lot of memories for a while.
Do you have a story?
Oh, I just remember the tree from growing up in Blue Rapids with the fairground activities and the softball games. It was always a place to go get shade. It was impressive. It was so big. Thank you.
Who are you?
Oh, Sue Rowland.
The tree began showing her age. Insidious rot moved up the trunk and out into the huge limbs. Early on the morning of Friday, July 14th, 2006, a main bough split off and fell to the ground. A gaping hole was exposed, and in it was a crude platform propped up by wooden posts. A treehouse, not built on a limb, but in a cavity. This missing section threw the rest of the tree out of balance, and another main bough sagged over the fence separating the arena from the park. One limb kissed an electric power line. This situation created headaches for the Marshall County Fair Board and the city because the fair had started and figure-8 car races were scheduled for the next day. Directly beneath the hanging bough, the pit stop crews would be stationed. The city crew inspected the tree and asked the fair board to find a tree removal company and fast. Kurtz Tree Service arrived an hour later, while Terry Kurtz, the owner, and his assistant, Justin Cooper, detailed a plan of attack. Their families spread out on the lawns. Kids played in the shade across the road. Their mothers hovered around them, sizing up the tree and worrying about their husband's safety. Fair board members gathered in conference. The smell of raw wood was strong. Where the bark had stripped off, the sinews were exposed, slick with moisture. Singularly or in pairs, people walked over and laid their hands on it as if in benediction. West Star Energy was summoned to cut the electric power. Mr. Kurtz spotted a bee swarm near a crook where they had intended to saw. Someone went to call a beekeeper. Just as West Star Energy drove up, the sagging bough shuddered and bent to the ground in a gentle arc, taking the power line and the bees with it. The tree now leaned to the north. Mr. Kurtz chainsawed sections of the fallen bough into manageable pieces, which were then dragged off by a bulldozer. Once space was cleared around the trunk, men rushed around looking for heavy lengths of chain. They would try to pull the tree down with the dozer. Kenny Feldhausen, a Fair Board member, parked the dozer a distance from the northwest side of the tree. Men scrambled to link chains together while Mr. Kurtz lifted Mr. Cooper in a bucket to drape the chain around the trunk. Everyone drew back as the dozer started up. It backed slowly until the chain was taut. The tree groaned but remained erect. Mr. Kurtz attacked the opposite side of the trunk with a long chainsaw. Wood chips flew in an angry whine. The tree gave a loud crack and shook as if angry, and then tilted toward the northwest. Its fall was slow and graceful, but it hit with a sustained whomp that sucked the breath out of everyone there. It was almost preternaturally quiet. Men looked dazed, walked to the tree and inspected it. Carpenter ants scurried around. On the opposite side of the fence was a loud drone of bees. The smell of wood and mold was stronger now. The sky looked too open, naked somehow. "That couldn't have come down any better," Mr. Kurtz said. Cooper gathered up his chainsaw. A trickle of blood had dried on his cheek. Mr. Kurtz slapped his hands together and walked over to his family and said, "That's all, folks."
My name is Justin Osborne, also known as JD around town. My story about the old Cottonwood is probably the same as every boy that grew up in Blue Rapids story. Any given summer day or after school, we'd ride our bikes down and we'd play on the dike. And then after a while, somebody had mentioned over by the demolition derby rink, so we'd go over there and ride our bikes around and make a track. And then we'd play underneath the branches of the old Cottonwood, and we'd play in the Cottonwood until dark, and then we'd ride our bikes back home.
This is my son Bill, who graduated from high school in 1982. This picture was taken in front of the Cottonwood tree down at the park. When I asked Bill about getting this picture put on here, he said, "Oh, Mom, is that the one with those ugly pants and that weird shirt?" And I said, "Yep, that'd be the one." I can't hardly hold it still. Every now and then.
Yeah, I'm not very good at it either.
This is a piece of cottonwood bark that I got at Steel City, Nebraska. I had picked up several pieces for my cousins in St. Louis to carve because they both were in carving. And in just a few minutes, my cousin's husband carved this face in a piece of cottonwood bark. He told me that the farther north the trees grow, the thicker the bark. So Nebraska cottonwoods would be thicker than Kansas, he figured.
After the fair, members of the Historical Society, circling like vultures, salvaged pieces of the cottonwood, while the city crew sawed manageable logs and bulldozed various piles. City Foreman David Sanner suggested having a community bonfire to release the tree back into the environment. The public was invited to bring hot dogs to roast. Free drinks and apple crisp were provided by the Chamber of Commerce. Accelerant was splashed on the pile, followed by the poke of a burning torch. Within minutes, the flames were reaching for the sky. The American Legion Color Guard stood by as an official flag-burning ceremony was held against the backdrop of the crackling fire.
Comrades, since these flags have become faded and worn in a tribute of service and love, I recommend that they be befittingly destroyed. A flag may be a flimsy bit of printed gauze or a beautiful banner of finest silk. Its intrinsic value may be trifling or great, but its real value is beyond price, for it is a precious symbol of all that we and our comrades have worked for and lived for, and died for a free nation of free men, true to the faith of the past, devoted to the ideals and practice of justice, freedom, and democracy. Let these faded flags of our country be retired and destroyed with respectful and honorable rights, and their places be taken by bright new flags of same size and kind. And let no grave of our soldier or sailor dead not be honored and unmarked. Let us pray. Almighty God, Captain of all hosts and Commander over all, bless and consecrate this present hour. We thank Thee for our country and its flag and the liberty for which it sounds. To clean and purging flames we commit these flags, worn out in worthy service as they yield their substance to the fire. May Thy holy light spread over us and bring to our hearts renewed devotion to God and country. Amen. Color guard. Head. Present arms.
In the collective memory of the town, the tree was always there, but now it was no more. For posterity, the Blue Rapids Historical Society captured the sights and sounds on their new camcorder, but the apple crisp and our magnificent cottonwood tree are gone.
I'd say there's over 200.
I bet there was too.
I had 3 big boxes.
Is that what we learned tonight?
Well, that's one thing trees don't take very much heat.
And as dry as it is, they're brittle and
Fire's gone way over the fence.
Oh, has it?
Yeah.
Is the fire department watching it?
No. What are you kidding?
That's the council's job.
they just parked the fire truck. They parked the fire truck here to make it look
Strictly
good.
for show. There's no
Nobody
fire
knows how to
here.
run it.
There's no fire.
It's all locked up. The guy that drove it up here is home. He's up or
You got my Dr. Pepper in.
When and where?
There we go.
All right.
Well, I remember crawling up in where it was hollow and playing in it when I was a kid, but we didn't spend a lot of time there because we figured it was going to fall down on top of us. We were scared. Not very much.
All right, that was a good one. Jay, you're up next.
What's that?
What's your story about the Cottonwood?
I can't tell you anything about this Cottonwood tree. I'm not from around here.
He's been here longer than we have.
But I'm glad the tree can't tell the stories it probably knows. So this is probably the best thing that's happened is it burnt down. It can't talk now. That's what Joe was saying also. Joe, you're
Okay,
out,
Joe.
buddy.
Yes, you are.
And don't try to get
I got a
even.
bunch of stories about that tree, but they all went up with the fire, and I can't remember them, Pat.
It was so long ago.
And it's a good thing they did.
Build a fire, light it.
We had 224 because some lady brought 6 more in.
300.
324
324 what, Bill?
flags. Because some lady just brought 6 more in just now.
And why did that cottonwood tree grow so big when it grew here so close to the demo cars?
Because it was big before they started the demo derbies.
It was here long before the demolition.
The first demolitions were clear over there on the baseball field.
Probably had a hell of a tap room.
Well, that's the
Probably
old
had a hell
channel.
of a
Yeah,
tap
the old
room.
channel.
Water. I mean, it didn't have far to
It'd
go.
flood here all the time.
Yeah, so it didn't.
But the old fire wagon, you can store them in the buildings over here. I remember when that was fitted up. There are millions of dollars worth of car parts in there. Millions.
They're going to stay there.
Yeah. New one. Jim Flowers said that when he was a kid, they hired him and 2 or 3 other kids then. I forget who had the garage, Ford garage, and they hold obsolete parts.
Hi, Jimmy.
Brand new.
You not working tonight?
Wow.
That showed it.
I know who it's selling to, Joe. He's a Ford man. He drives some old things.
We used to come down here to the dump. And came down my brother one day and he found a great big old plaster of Paris Indian head or bust about that tall. We put it out there, put it on top of stuff so
And I
it,
don't know if I spooked him or
I worked last night.
looks like he did.
My birthday candle! My birthday candle! Candle. Can we do that?
How much starter did they put on there?
David was down there at 2 dumping from the top down. He wanted to be sure that it burnt good and they didn't have a lot of stuff that comes out. you bring your sleeping bag, Diana?
No, but I could go get it.
Okay.
We were talking about bringing our campers over.
And then melting them down.
I thought that way to get water
If you want to put that fire out with water in a bucket, go for it. You think that's going to work very well? Unless you have one of those big buckets that's underneath one of those
This is probably frying the film.
That log just rolled down.
I know, and I missed it on my camera, didn't I?
Yeah, you just missed it.
Well, I'm waiting for that big one on the top.
It might slide down.
It might. How far might it come?
I want to see it come all the way down.
Well, you just stick around. It's got to happen sooner or later.
That thing's gonna, that log right there in front is gonna come down sooner or later. Yeah.
What can be holding that one up? I mean, I see one sticking up under it, but it doesn't even look like it's touching.
I don't know. I see another stick over there. See that big lump? See that big thing?
Uh-huh.
That stick. There's a stick right beside it holding the front up so it doesn't roll.
I wouldn't think that could last very long.
Let's stop that stick now.
Did you look how high the sparks are going up in the sky? It's better than the 4th of July. You want to be on camera?
I kind of wanted to see it, but I can't really.
Oh, well, I'll open it up just for you. I've got it on night shot, so that kind of makes it look black and white.
That's okay.
But I was going to put you on.
What?
What are you guys going to do if you're on camera? Uh-huh. What do you have to say to your friends who are not here?
This bonfire is big, and I hope you are here. And the stick rolled down right now. There's a log that's about to fall on us.
So say goodbye.
Bye.
Is it really going to fall? No, not yet.
That's a big fire. I can't see anymore.
So let's do that again, and you tell me your names, okay?
Adrian Fishney.
How old are you?
Braden Bochek.
What grade are you guys in?
Second. First. Third. Second.
But you're all the same size. How does that work out? Don't they put you in a grade by size anymore?
No.
They don't. Huh.
We just go like whenever we do.
You don't know why you're in second grade or third grade?
Third grade because I have no idea.
Yeah, there's Adrian.
He's been older, longer. He's old.
Do you have stories about this tree to tell, Susan?
Do I have stories?
Uh-huh.
No. Just said it was supposed to be the oldest cottonwood or the biggest cottonwood, but I think that was fairy tale for all those years.
Who did?
Roy Hartloff was saying that he's had some naps in it.
Really?
Wow.
Rhonda Farnham said she spent a Girl Scout camp out in it.
Well, I was saying, you know, how the treehouse thing was built inside of the, oh, she's camcording me, inside of the tree, and they said that, I think it was Jimmy Flower's dad built that there so he could sneak over here and smoke.
Oh, really?
So I don't know if
That
it's
is
true
so
or
funny.
not, but it was all built up in there. There was a treehouse up there? Yeah.
Well, those tips even go against him. They do. I know, but statistically they go against him. I know, but they go against him.
I'm going to a smaller fire.
He's going to a smaller fire.
My name is Reverend Martin A. West. I've been asked to share a poem with you now called Grandmother Cottonwood Tree's Story. I learned through Rhonda Farnham when we met in the 80s and she introduced me to her hometown of Blue Rapids, how special Grandmother Cottonwood Tree would become in our lives. We settled down in the 90s and had a chance to spend time in the community. I want to pay tribute to a legacy that is a legacy for Blue Rapids, Grandmother Cottonwood Tree. Oh, Grandmother Cottonwood Tree, it's time to share your story. As we look back in time, you've witnessed the days of Vaudeville and mine. You have seen the weekly family trips to gather supplies. You've noticed them taking advantage of merchants offering special buys. Oh, Grandmother Cottonwood Tree, what major events do you remember most? This is your life being retold as I serve as your poem host. How many presents have you seen come and go? How many tears have you shed for lives lost from nature's tornado flow? Throughout your life, Grandmother Cottonwood Tree, you have offered so much. How many lives did you reach out and touch? From newborns to the very old, will my poem encourage others to reveal their memories they have left yet untold? As a paying tribute to the life of Grandmother Cottonwood Tree, I play my poem, vibrant drum, that is ours. Just as we take time to remember all those missing in action, veterans, and those passing that have touched our lives and served our country, so now is my turn to honor a tree that touched me so very deeply. Grandmother Cottonwood Tree, here is my final tribute to you. "12 rings to signify the 12 months and through the many seasons that you have touched so many lives and so many years on years. How many decades, how many centuries, how many days, how many months have you touched each one of our lives? Thank you, great-grandmother. Thank you, Grandmother Cottonwood Tree, for sharing your life and your memories with me.